What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Unfiltered Truth. I'm your host. We got our weekly special with Raiders digital reporter Levi Edwards. We're going to talk about the recent roster moves, talk about the recent game, all that and more coming up on the Unfiltered Truth. Let's start the show. And we're back. So let's hop right into it. We got Levi here. Mr. Edwards, good to see you as always. Love the fact that you are still smiling through all the trials and tribulations of the season.
At this point, I really don't have a choice. That's all I really can do. In the words of the illustrious Aubrey Graham, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but I guess you know now.
Yes, you know now. No, that's real. Let's start at the top. We got Hunter Renfro and Darren Waller going to the IR.
Yes. I wasn't expecting Renfro. It must have been an injury that occurred yesterday during practice. I'm not exactly sure how it took place. I know that it is a oblique injury, which is kind of like a core muscle injury. So even though he was put on IR and he will be, ready to return in 4 weeks, who knows how long it'll take for him to properly recover from that injury or how severe that injury is, as well as Darren Waller, an injury that's been lingering for a couple of weeks, and they've been trying to get him back on the field and see how he does. But with hamstring injuries, they are just very, very tricky. They're kind of like turf toe, where with turf toe, it's just kind of like you just have it, and you just kind of have to wait and wait until it gets better. You can't really control it. So it seems like he re-aggravated his hamstring, and they were just like, let's be safe. Let's not be sorry. We just extended you for another 2-year contract, and we want to have the best for you moving forward, no matter how this season ends out. And so they put him on IR, and who knows? 4 weeks from now, Darren comes back, and the team starts swinging off a couple of wins. If you win your next 4 games, you're 6-6, and then you get Waller coming back, and then things might be on the come up. So you just never know. Things are just very, 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 very surprising in the NFL.
To say the least. They absolutely are. This whole thing with Hunter Renfro. So is this a new injury? Is this something that happened in practice?
I believe it's a new injury. I never seen it on an injury report up until this point. So I'm not exactly sure how it was sustained or when it was sustained. But my educated guess would be that it happened during practice yesterday. But it could have been something that he had been dealing with for a while that just got worse. Who knows?
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Blake Martinez decided that at week 10, this was the week to retire after having trying to make a comeback up from that ACL injury. He racked up a lot of tackles, but he was late to the party and pass coverage and had been struggling and had given us what he had, but it just didn't quite look like he was back to where he was, and now he's hanging him up. So I mean, was that something that he had been thinking about for a while, or something that he just looked at how he was feeling after the game against the Jaguars and decided he couldn't do it anymore?
There's a lot of factors, and I can't speak for Blake. He would have to, tell the world or tell you his reasoning. I had only known that he was not at practice earlier this week just because, for personal reasonings, but we didn't know what it was. And now it all makes sense today, of course. Coming back from that injury is, it's very hard for anyone of any sport to come back from an injury like that. And I think we're now at the point within, modern technology and medicine where you just have everybody recovering from torn ACLs and acting like it's normal. It's not normal. I mean, it's a long, hard battle to come back from that, especially the further you get into your career. And Blake Martinez is someone that has had a great career in his time with the Giants and with the Packers, and he did a lot of good things. And I thought that he would be a really good addition to this Raiders team, considering he knows the system with Patrick Graham. And it's crazy because he led the team in tackles on Sunday against the Jaguars. So he literally went from leading the team in tackles at the beginning of the week to retiring at the end. And I commend him for what he was able to do. And whether he felt like he was the same or not, that's up for him to say. Or maybe he just had other avenues and ventures that he wanted to go down. I know he's out here selling Pokemon cards for more than $500,000 now. So I mean, if he keeps on doing that, I mean, he doesn't need those checks, putting his body on the line anymore when he can just, rack up on some cards and flip them.
Catch them all, right?
Catch them all. You already know what it is.
Got to catch them all. Yeah, so that we got so the linebacking core is looking real thin right now. Paraman's nursing something. Divine Diablo got carted off the field, put on IR. I believe it's a wrist injury. Did he break it, or do you not know?
I'm not exactly 100% sure. I did see Diablo in the building on Monday, and he was in a harness. So I assume that it was probably something either with his forearm or his wrist, is what I would assume.
Okay, good to know. So that leaves we're at Darian Butler, Luke Masterson, and we signed Reggie Ragland.
Yes. Me personally, to start off with that last name, I like Reggie a lot, and that's complete Alabama bias. He's a Bama boy, and he's played a lot of games, and really, he just has a very physical style of play. So obviously, when you have such a physical style like that, injuries are going to persist, and it's going to be hard to keep your body, up to 100% when you try to really go for that haymaker every time, and you play with such passion and such speed. So he's on the practice squad right now, but he's a guy with a lot of veteran experience that can, come in and be a leader for a locker room. So I thought it was a really good, underrated pickup. I also, a name that you missed. Of course, you have the two undrafted guys, but that goes without saying that Curtis Bolton was activated to the main roster today. He was signed off the practice squad, so it seems like he'll be in that linebacking core for the rest of the season on the active roster until someone comes back and he might have to go back down. But I think Curtis Bolton is a guy that could come in and contribute to this defense. He played very well in the preseason. He's also been a big piece of the special teams game. So I'm really interested to see what he can do as well, because even though you have Luke Masterson and Darian Butler, when you look at the depth chart, obviously those are the next men up. However, I've noticed just within Graham's defense and the way he's been doing things is that he would prefer to rely more on his veteran players like Jayon and Perryman, and even Bolton elevating Reggie Ragland. I think those guys are probably going to see a little bit more action if it's up to him. However, with the way that injuries have been and Blake Martinez retiring, I don't think whoever can play is going to play at this point.
Right. Speaking of play, Jonathan Abram, why now? We made it this far into the season. I didn't think that he was playing horribly. Could he have played better? Obviously, we would like to have had him play better, but they jettisoned him this week, and he gave us a nice, good, heartfelt thank you, grateful message, and I have no ill will towards him. But what happened with that situation?
Well, I think it's one of those things where why wait? Why wait
Mm-hmm.
when you can do it now? Uh, I think that's kind of the mindset, because obviously it's been seen that Abram, he didn't get his fifth year picked up. He kind of started to lose his way within his snaps, and Deron Harmon started to kind of overtake him, as well as Merrick for those two deep safety spots. And with the way that they play in coverage, the coaching staff felt like he just couldn't adapt to it. But also, I think a lot of people just look at this cut and they think like, okay, well, the Raiders, didn't need him, so they're just kind of like, ship him off. I think they were also looking out for the best interest of Jonathan Abram because they knew that he wasn't going to be as big of a role in this defense moving forward. And they tried to, trade him. They tried to, do what they could. But at the end of the day, I believe that waiving him is also the best thing for him as well, for him to be able to latch on to another team. And he has a literal half a season left where he can go somewhere and actually be productive, be needed, get more film. He can prove himself to the Packers, and that can, prolong to an extension for him there, or he can put up enough on tape for him to get that second deal somewhere else. So a lot of people just think that the Raiders threw him away because he's no longer needed, but it's also more than that. I feel like they were also looking, towards, for the best interest of him as well. And I think they, I'm not speaking for the general manager. I don't know what would go through Ziegler's mind and Champ's mind. I'm not going to speak for them, but it's one of those things where it was very obvious that they were trying to make moves to put him on the block and see what was available for him. And then if when they weren't able to make a deal, I believe they just kind of had the why wait until tomorrow? Why do it now? And why can't we do it now mentality? So I think that's what it came down to.
And you're absolutely right. When you do something like that mid-season, it's out of respect for the player. It's giving them an opportunity to go someplace and start over fresh and put their best foot forward, especially when things aren't working in the particular situation that you have them in. I mean, they could have, like you said, they could have hung on to him for the rest of the year. Then what good would that have done? I mean, all he would have had on tape was the subpar play and the fact that he would have got benched and ultimately would have hurt him a lot more than poor play or
That's
being able
correct.
to get a fresh start and go someplace else. But so the well, I realize we're running shorter on time. So where do we go from here?
That is a great question. Um, you just got to win. You just got to be consistent. That's really what it comes down to. Is when you look at this team and the flaws, really the one glaring flaw has really nothing to do with talent or technique or scheme. It really just all has to do with consistency. And sorry for that technical difficulty, but really that's what it comes down to. What needs to be done in order to win is consistency. Uh, the Raiders have proven that they can be good. The problem is that they haven't proven to be good for 60 minutes. I've seen the Raiders play good for 30 minutes. I've seen the Raiders play good for 45 minutes. I've seen the Raiders play good for 48 minutes. I've seen the Raiders play good for 20 minutes. Uh, they got to play good for 60 minutes, especially in the NFL when every team you play, no matter what their record is, this is elite talent. You're playing the best of the best. Even if it's the Texans, you're facing Davis Mills. Davis Mills is still a top 32 quarterback in the world, essentially.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not going to count for the CFL and the XFL and all those other leagues, but when it comes down to the NFL, he's one of 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. All of these guys that you have to play are elite, and the Raiders cannot shrug off anyone. They cannot they can't take their foot off the gas. That's really what it comes down to. And a lot of people, especially on here, they're gonna go in the comments. They're gonna be like, "Oh, well, coaching is off, and we so and so needs to be fired, and so has to be moved, and all this stuff." And the frustration is definitely warranted. But when you look at the last couple of years of this team, even you can speak on more on this, Phil. When Gruden came in and how it took time to build that from 4-12 to 8-8 to essentially Bisaccia taking over and rallying that team into a 10-7 record. And all of that being said is that I think Josh McDaniels is a very suitable coach. I think he has a more than suitable coaching staff. And these are the things that happen when you bring in a new system and you have players that are trying to acclimate to things, and you're trying to bring in players that can acclimate to things. And so I think a lot of the fan base and the locker room, not even the fan base, the locker room specifically, is a little harder on them because they've had success. They
Right.
went through the trials and tribulations of, everything seeming like it was going to go, into a dumpster fire and then resurrecting themselves into the kind of season they had. So after that, you kind of have certain expectations, but then you also have to be realistic and look at things more from a long-term point of view than a short-term point of view. And so I'm not saying this season is over because it's truly not. We still have 8 or 9 more games left, and the Raiders can still get it together and really make a run for things, even with how things are looking now. But it takes patience, and it takes everybody being on the same page, and it takes consistency. And those are just some things that this team has just not mastered to this point yet.
No, that's real, and balance. I think they're having a major problem with balance as well. Not necessarily in play. Well, it was balanced between the pass and the run, and now I really think it's balanced in how they allocate targets in the passing game and who's getting what. So, well, while I want to feed Devonte Adams, if he's going to be doubled, you got to be. That means somebody else should be open, and I got to, and we've looked at some of the ESPN clips and James Jones and a lot of people who've been pointing out missed opportunities, and let's see how to ask this. And when I look at what's going on, I see a lack of execution, and it's been a really glaring lack of execution. And Vinny had referenced that a couple days ago in a tweet. What are your thoughts on some of the trials that they've gone on with execution?
Well, even the players said it themselves. Devontae's come out and said it. Derek has come out and said it. Several players in the locker room this week has come out and said it, where they are taking the finger and they're not pointing it at any coaches. They're not pointing it at their teammates. They're taking the finger and then they're pointing it back at themselves. Each player on the team is trying to take self accountability for what they can do and what they can provide for the team. And so Devontae even said it best. He said, no matter what's called, we got to go out there and execute on it. And coaches, they come up with schemes and they do things to try to win games, but when it comes down to it, the players make the plays. The players have to be successful in order to win the game, no matter what the plan is, from whoever coach or whatever balance it is. So, of course, I'm not going to talk about X's and O's. I'm not going to talk about what could or could not be done better within a game plan because these people know football, breathe football for a lot longer than I have. What I will say is that players win games, and the players in the locker room are very knowledgeable that they can all step up and do a better job and hold each other and themselves accountable to execute what is ever given to them, whether they like it or not.
For sure, for sure. Ooh, I had a question going and then I brain farted. Um, the
I
cold.
understand.
No, I remember. I got it back now. So my question to you, and this gonna be off the wall, but it just hear me out on this one. Do you have any head coaching experience in high school?
No, I don't have any high school head coaching experience.
Well, then you are uniquely unqualified to coach in the NFL, Levi. All you needed was some high school water carrying, maybe a clipboard drawing or two, and we could have got you in as a coach, bro.
I
That's
will
what
say this though. I will say this though. I also, even though I did not coach high school football, I also have no Super Bowl rings. I have no All Pro selections. I've never played with Peyton Manning or Marvin Harrison. Um, I don't know Tony Dungy on the first name basis. Uh, so, I mean, those are all things that I think might have also, be good qualifications for being a coach.
Like, hey,
And I won't take those lightly either, especially with the way this season has been going. Um, so I will say that.
hey, and not everybody's lucky enough to catch Ursay off a bender, right? But but that's what the Raiders are up against. Jeff Saturday. I was doing a podcast with somebody else, and that just knocked my socks off in the middle of the show. I'm sitting here. I'm like, wait, what? Like Jeff's. I was like, Gus Bradley. I know they had somebody else. They bypassed Gus Bradley and this other dude for Jeff Saturday. And so instantly at that moment, I was like, all right, fine, fuck it. If we're just gonna have Jeff Saturday coaching, then what somebody has to do for me right now is they gotta get Peyton Manning out of the booth for Monday Night Football as his OC. I have to see them on the sideline screaming at each other about what play they're gonna call in which situation and talking a gang of crap to each other in the middle of trying to coach a game. I have to see that. I need that
Most
visual.
most legendary mic'd up all time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They probably wouldn't let him do it.
No, I would love to see, take the our game out of the equation. I'd love to see Colts playing on a Monday night and just letting Peyton Manning cast that and just, just going through all of his best Jeff Saturday stories that he has.
Oh, that
Not
would
even
be
talking about the game. Just because I mean, like, I'm not going to. It definitely was an interesting decision, 100%. I think everyone would agree that it was a very interesting decision. Um, but I will also not come on. I will not be on this podcast and knock this man and his accomplishments that he has accomplished in the NFL. Um, he was a great offensive lineman. I remember growing up playing with the Colts. Jeff Saturday, he was a pretty good center in real life and non Madden. Uh,
mm-hmm.
so I mean, I know people don't really care about offensive linemen when you're playing Madden, but
Oh
I mean, it
man,
helps. It
it hell
helps.
yeah, it a lot,
It helps.
a lot.
When you got like a 90, when you got 96, 97 center on Madden, it helps. So he definitely he's been around winning. He knows what winning looks like. He knows what the path to winning and being great looks like. And I will not the whole Colts organization right now. I'm not going to speak on them. I'm not in the building. They're in a peculiar situation from the outside looking in. Just with now they have someone who a new guy calling plays, and they have Jeff Saturday. One thing I will say is that they do have a man that knows these players pretty well. His name's Gus Bradley, and he has a good defense. That is the one thing about the Colts that is very nerve wracking, is that they have a good defense. And especially with the guys who we are going to have out on offense, I'm not going to take them for granted because they have a really good cornerback duo. They have a great linebacking unit. They have DeForest Buckner, and they have a guy that's probably going to be a little amped up to play back in his old stadium uh, on the right side. So I'm not gonna take the Colts lightly, despite the new head coach, the new play caller. Uh, it'll be interesting. I keep on saying that word, but like I mean, Phil, can you find another word than interesting to describe
Uh,
this Colts team in this game?
I could find a lot of words to describe this Colts team in this particular situation. I was actually going to ask. I was like, let's take it a step further with this whole interesting thing. What is that? Where does that leave us if we find ourselves unable to get it done on Sunday?
In the same spot the team is in now. I don't think. I mean, it's so. I mean, they're deeply committed into everything that they're doing, and Uh,
Mhm.
Something Matt Collins said in the locker room today, it was like, you know, as a team, you know, if you're all wrong, then you're right. And basically what that means is that I think that this team is just trying to come together and feed into one another and just try to do their best as a unit to all be on the same page and not turn on each other or find excuses for why they're losing games and, you know, try to be divisive. Um, so I think if they do lose this game, uh, they're still going to go about the rest of this season and they're still going to go about trying to find ways to win the exact same way they did, you know, last week or the week before that, to be honest with you. Because at the end
Oh,
of the day, um, I mean, I mean, not like, you know, I mean, this is a completely different situation. I'll say that right there. It's a completely different situation. But you also have to remember that last year, after the Raiders head coach resigned, there was a special teams coordinator that stepped up that had never had any head coaching experience, uh, and led that team to the playoffs. So I'm just saying that I'm not I'm not surprised by anything at this point. Uh, Jeff Saturday seems like he can lead men. He has NFL experience. This Colts team is still in the NFL, and the last time I checked, every team in the NFL is good. And we'll see what happens. I will say that the Raiders have had much better luck at home this year than they have on the road, and that
yeah.
will definitely help to see a lot of black jerseys and a lot of black hoodies on Sunday screaming.
So I'm just I was fascinated by this whole thing, and I'm just curious on how Ursay is getting away with this. Because I mean, I don't know how much further you can go into straight tank mode to hire a coach who's never done it before out of a booth and get away and get away with
Well,
it.
that's the one thing I will say about Ursay. Not trying to cut you off is, I mean, he knows Jeff Saturday pretty well. I mean, he's
Right?
been around him since about '99. So I
Yeah.
mean, when you've been around the dude for about since '99, you gonna know a lot about him. That's legal age. I was about to
Yeah.
say, literally, like he's known this guy, brought him in off of, you know, Ravens practice squad. As the owner, you're bringing in somebody that you know pretty well, and it might
Yeah.
seem pretty bogus to everybody else, but you know, in his eyes and his shoes, you know, he's bringing in somebody that's like, you know what, I need to stir it up. I need to do something different, and this is different.
This is different. Definitely different. We're not going to
But
talk about Ursay like that.
is there anything else you got for me?
No, sir. You can. You thank you for your time as always. I appreciate you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous Levi Edwards, the Raiders digital swole reporter. You got anything to plug on your way out?
We got a pick six tomorrow. Always make sure you're tied into Raiders.com on Sundays for our game day coverage. We're going to keep on cranking out content that's going to be worth reading, worth spending time on, paying attention to, no matter what happens on the field with the results. I'm going to always make sure I give you guys the best inside coverage on this team and this journey.
Right on, right on. Well, appreciate your time, brother. Take care, and God bless.
God bless you.
Let's see if this thing will work. Take yourself out. Oh, there we go. All right, there we are. My shit is fucking up. But we're gonna get through this no matter what. So tell me if you're seeing me talking regular, if this is delayed, because honestly, I don't know. I see Gabe in the chat. What's up, Gabe? Pyro, Al's Ghost, Dre, Q, Dre for show. All of the all of the homies. It's good. Thank you for tuning up. Okay, so it is just my feed then. Um, 20-27, losing to the Jaguars, being up 17-0. go having an opportunity to put the game away at 24, and then an underthrow literally swung the entire momentum of the game and cost and I'm not going to say one singular play cost us the game, but that was the last point that we saw both the Raiders offense and the Raiders defense. They didn't score any points, barely took the field, and the defense couldn't get off the field, couldn't get a third down stop, couldn't save their own lives, couldn't do nothing. And it's so very tiresome to watch, but it is what it is. Like Levi said, this is a new team with a new discipline, a new way of doing things. They got new techniques to learn and to employ, and have to learn consistency. And I think that you're going to see who picks up the system in these next coming weeks. So it's easy to say who's bad. It's easy to say who's we got to get rid of. Point at that guy, say he's no good. But we have to figure out where we're going and who's coming with us. A lot of guys are falling off. So some people feel some way about what they're doing. Others are willing to take what's happening at face value. Um, but the Raiders, the Raiders need to figure out who they are. And what I mean by that is they need to figure out who they are as a team, what they do individually, what they do together, who can grow with this system, who can grasp it, and who's going to be around for next year. We've all seen this movie before. Ziegler will gut the rest roster in the offseason. We're in for another 3-year rebuild. No, you're really not. If you look at the guys who look, Hunter's under contract, Waller's under contract, Adams is under contract. That core group of people is not going anywhere. Andre James is under contract. Colton Miller is under contract. Dylan Parham is under contract. Brandon Parker is his contract will be up. Illuminor's contract will be up. This realistically on offense, you need three things. I would say three, maybe four, but three things for sure. One is a left guard. Two is possibly a right tackle, and the third is a quarterback. It's time for a change. We've seen a lot of Derek. We've seen good. We've seen bad. But we need to get somebody who's going to take more than the check down when it's there. Somebody who's going to have the patience and the accuracy to convert deep throws into deep touchdowns, because there's a lot of meat being left on the bones. A lot of it. That there's a lot of opportunities for this defense to get better. And if you move on from Carr, his salary cap is $34 million next year. If you sign a rookie, you're looking at a guy that you're splitting up $18 million over the course of 4 years for. So you're saving almost $30 million, and that's something that you can do a lot of to go move forward and build your defense. They also got to stop throwing money at guys who are over the hill, because they are going to be paying Chandler Jones an ungodly amount of money for absolutely nothing, because that's what he's doing on the field. They can dress it up and talk about, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's doing that. Listen, bro, you are a defensive end. You are an edge rusher with no sacks. It's week 10. It's week 10, no sack, half a sack, excuse me. What do you there's no pressure, there's no pressure up the middle. They need a stud defensive tackle like Daryl Russell type, a Chris Jones type, an Aaron Donald type, Fletcher Cox, somebody capable of collapsing the pocket in the passing game and wreaking havoc in the run and being the tip of the spear at the point of attack. Do we go quarterback in the first round? We should. So that's a very interesting point that you brought up, OC Nation, because there are quarterbacks that I would absolutely love to have in the first round. There are also quarterbacks that I believe will be available somewhere in the third, fourth, or fifth. And it would be if they are able to sneak their guy, their quarterback, or quarterback that they do like and feel like will be a scheme fit. Because I think one of the best scheme fits in terms of what McDaniels likes from his quarterback is probably going to be Cam Rising. There's also Hendon Hooker, who I believe will be a first round draft pick, as well as Bryce Young. And I think that's if they don't have a shot at Hooker or Young, then they will look to get the best possible defender and pick up a guy like Jaden Daniels, Cam Rising, Will Levis, who everybody thinks is so great, but I don't. I think he's probably a fifth, sixth round draft pick because watching him at Kentucky, I didn't like what he was doing at all. West Jaden Daniels is from LSU. I got a third or fourth rounder on him. I didn't think he was coming out, but he's been solid. But I think that he would be behind Rising because Rising is a little better throwing the football, but Daniels just wins. He would be kind of like McDaniel's Jacoby Brissett type quarterback, maybe a little bit smaller. Kevin, I agree with you. This will be a good draft by Dave Ziegler next year. We got Gabe. Question: with all those guys under contract and all of them with serious question marks, what do you think you could get actually out of them? So, gotta love when we got mariachi going on next door. That's always fun. Realistically, I think that you could still get a lot out of these guys. I don't think any of these guys are done. I don't think any of these guys are done by a long shot. In fact, I think that what I think is that when you switch schemes and when you switch styles of play, there's a learning curve that's both from learning how to run the routes, learning the options, learning the breakdowns and the checks, and then there's getting the football in positions to do something with it. And they need to get the ball in positions to do something with it to where they don't catch it and their first thought is I got to get down and protect myself because somebody is about to smack me in my head. These guys, and I wouldn't doubt it, are tired of being set up for kill shots. And I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it if they weren't killing themselves to come back so they could run out there and take more of them kill shots. That's my own personal opinion. Nobody said that, but you can look and tell that guys aren't giving it their all. That they're not reaching for those iffy balls anymore. They're making business decisions, and I don't blame them. But one of the things that struck me was what the whole little tidbit with Trevor Lawrence and Denzel Perriman after he smacked him, and he told Perriman, after you hit me, I play better. I'm kind of sick like that. I like that. We don't have that behind. We don't have that under center. We just don't. And if you Patrick Mahomes has said something like that, Josh Allen has said something like that, has proven it. Even Joe Burrow. When you talk about a quarterback who's ready to take the team to the next level, that's the type of guy you need. The type of guy who takes the contact and says, "Hit me again. I'm ready. I'll be here all night." So not a guy who curls up a little ball, bruh. Not a guy who curls. But so we got Robinson. Who do we bring in as a Breeze quarterback when we get rid of Carr? You got Stidham. Honestly, I caught a lot of heat for this a lot when I said it, but if you look at the backup quarterbacks that the Raiders have had, talking about Nate Peterman, Marcus Mariota, Jarrett Stidham, and then you have the starter Derek Carr. Those are all variations of the same guy. Nick Mullins too. They're all variations of the same guy, similar skill sets. run a little bit. Some can run better than others. Some's got a liver arm than others. Supposed to be cerebral guys, quick decision makers, can get the ball out of their hands into the receiver's hands, deliver an accurate football, yada yada yada. Smart, keep can manage the game, not turn over the football. That's what it is. So that's the bridge quarterback. Then Marlon said, "Yes, definitely thought I did on that high ball over the middle, business decisions." Right. I mean, nobody's trying to get killed. You're on a 2-6 football team, bro. Let's keep it gangster. Said, and yes, he's asking for the football more, but if you look at where he caught those footballs, he wasn't catching them down the field. He was catching them in the short intermediate areas. You got to figure out a way. If Devontae's going to be hot, you got to keep the best thing they can do is if they're going to be double covering him, then they need to figure out where the short defender is going to be and where the guy who's playing behind him is. If you can scheme him to where yes, he may be getting double covered, but there's nobody that's underneath the routes when he's coming open, it won't matter. So then you'll get him the ball in space. He'll get a chance to make something happen and do what he did in the first half of the game against the Jaguars. Now, when you start trying to go deep with the double coverage, then you'll run into what happened in the second half where he's just not open, where you're playing, let's see how I can throw a perfect ball on the sideline, and he'll jump up, get 2 toes down, and secure football in a millisecond. That there's no yards after the catch because he's going straight out of bounds. So that's what I thought. Let's see. So we're not, yeah, Gabe. We're not getting rid of everybody. The defense is going to get made over, and it needs to happen. They need to invest some money into the defense. You can't. Everybody wants to complain about the defense and talk about how they're this, how they're that, how they're no good. They don't spend no damn money on the defense. If you got $200 million and you spend maybe you spend 60 to 80 because you're probably spending 60 on the guys that are actually here. What are you expecting to get? You got no defensive tackles. You haven't drafted the linebacker in the first round ever, or since excuse me, let me walk that back, since Khalil Mack. You haven't had a Pro Bowl middle linebacker since '88, except for Denzel Perryman making it as an alternate last year. There's a value system that needs to be placed on premium positions that's just not being done. Like Marlon said, you get what you pay for. Dre, come on, bruh. Uh, Come on, bruh. Stop it. Ain't nobody finna trade Sauce. You couldn't give the Jets enough for Sauce Gardner right now. They would be better off trying to find him in the draft, find the next one in the draft. Wes, do I believe in investing some money in the O line? It depends on who it is. I'm not going to give at this point if they can find a guy in the draft. Look, you saw what they did with Parham. Mumford is on the team. He's going to be pretty good. He's got to take his lumps at this point. I think he's maybe a game or two away from starting the rest of the season. They did not want to start a rookie, but we've reached a point where I mean we're pretty soon we lose a game here, we lose one more game, we're not playing for anything. Let's call it what it is. Uh, and we're already looking towards the draft. So Mumford is going to be good. He's faced Nick Bosa, Chase Young in practice for years. He's not going to be overwhelmed with speed. His technique may need a little bit of work, and he might need some live action to get his sea legs underneath him. But I like Munford. You can get another guy, but the left guard, I believe, is going to be the one that's really, really paramount because you're going to need a guy who can hold it down in the middle and get James some help so that we can be best where we need to be. The Raiders are doing phenomenal in terms of pocket time. I believe once again, according to Pro Football Reference, they are ranked number 1 in the league with 2.6 seconds of pocket time. Number one in the league. Everybody keeps telling me that this offensive line is trash and no good, but somehow they continue to be number one in pocket time and continue to have a healthy average where their running back is gaining over 4.5 per carry. I said, I don't know what else that it is that you expect this offensive line to do. I said, are they perfect? No, they're not. They're not the Cowboys line of the 90s where all five of them are going to the Hall of Fame. It's just not going to happen. But we need some better execution. And that's what's haunted this team all season long. It's not the scheme, it's not the players, it's the execution. Said you can know everything about it. Coach used to tell us when we were in practice, he used to tell the defense the play that we were going to run. And he said, it doesn't matter if the defense knows what you're going to run, you still got to go out there and do it. And they're not doing it. And that is the biggest difference. The Raiders and why they're 2-6 and why they're not winning games that everybody believes that they should be winning. And that's simply what it is. But all right, guys, we're about 45 minutes in. Levi's out of here, and maybe if I can get this stupid computer to act right, I'll be able to end this show. So thank you for tuning in. Till next time, I'm Phil, and this is the Unfiltered Truth.